Are you ready to hear about a terrifying encounter that happened to a park ranger at Glacier National Park? What they saw climbing the mountain left them stunned and chilled to the bone. But that's not the only story. In another park, a ranger's skepticism about a fabled arch of terror and wonder was put to the test, and what they encountered there was beyond their wildest dreams. Stay tuned to hear more about these heart-stopping encounters. As a park ranger at Glacier National Park, there are days that can be challenging despite the park's natural beauty. On one particular day, the ranger was tasked with hiking a difficult trail to ensure its security. As part of the assignment, the ranger meticulously checked the path for loose rocks, searched for any signs of vandalism, and looked out for dangerous animals that could potentially harm park visitors. Unfortunately, the ranger came across evidence of the destruction caused by some tourists who did not value the natural world. Rocks and trees had been vandalized and destroyed, leaving a detrimental impact on the park's ecosystem. Despite the ranger's efforts to protect the park's natural beauty, it was disheartening to see the effects of those who did not share the same level of respect and appreciation for the environment. On that particular day, the park ranger was taking in the beautiful scenery when something caught their eye. From a distance, they spotted a mark on a rock, which they examined through their binoculars and found to be a dead mountain goat. It was evident from the blood that the animal had been viciously attacked. Although animal deaths were not uncommon in national parks, the goat's location was unusual. It had been killed on a tiny ledge halfway up the mountain, which was highly unlikely for a mountain goat known for its climbing skills. The ranger noted this and carried on with their hike, pondering how such a thing could have happened. During the ranger's walk, they noticed some fresh dirt footprints, which they recognized to be those of a very large wolf. The ranger took a mental note of the location and paused to rehydrate, but remained alert and cautious. Suddenly, the ranger heard the sounds of mountain goats in distress. Even though the sounds seemed far away, the ranger decided to investigate. They eventually found the goats and noticed a frightened goat leading the group. While looking around, the ranger saw movement on the mountain, which they initially thought was a shadow. However, upon closer inspection, they saw a large, wolf-like creature climbing the mountain. Although it lacked ears and a tail, the creature's body resembled that of a wolf, and its presence sent chills down the ranger's spine. As park rangers in Glacier National Park, they had a harrowing encounter with an unknown creature while hiking. Although they had seen its tracks before, they were relieved to have never encountered it again. The experience left the ranger with the realization that there may be park inhabitants that remain unknown and mysterious, and the thought of encountering them again fills them with fear. As a result, the ranger has made the decision not to hike alone in Glacier National Park again. Having explored the many natural wonders of Arches National Park, including the iconic sandstone arches, the ranger has come to know the park well. However, there are still areas that remain unexplored, even by seasoned rangers. One such area, located close to the main entrance, has always intrigued the ranger. Despite this, few tourists venture there, and fellow rangers have warned the ranger of a fabled arch nearby that threatens those who approach it with nightmares and terrifying visions. As a park ranger, he was initially skeptical about the stories he had heard about the arch being a place of terror and wonder. He believed that former rangers had simply indulged in some drinking and drug use, which gave rise to fantastic tales. However, he decided to investigate the situation more thoroughly by visiting the arch himself. As soon as he arrived, he was amazed by the arch's stunning beauty, which was among the most impressive he had ever seen during his time working there. Despite this, he remained unconvinced of the rumors about the arch until he decided to stand beneath it and demonstrate to himself and others that the stories were untrue. He touched the arch as a preliminary test to see if it felt any different from other park arches. Still skeptical, but willing to consider the possibility of encountering something extraordinary, he waited under the arch. Thinking it would be funny to try to elicit an answer, he decided to touch the inside of the arch with his hand. The stones felt unusually cold, to the point where his fingers were almost burned as he did this. Suddenly, he heard panting sounds coming from his right and saw an eerie creature staring at him. The creature was much bigger than any animal he had ever seen in the park, and made a dog-like sound when it panted. It had a face devoid of a pointed nose and a thin, greyhound-like body covered in long, black fur, with an odd combination of features. The park ranger was stunned and amazed by the sight of the creature, which he had never seen before in his life. The park ranger stood frozen in fear as the creature's bright eyes bore into their own. It was as if the creature knew why the ranger was there and was determined to disprove their hypothesis. The archstones surrounding them seemed to grow colder, intensifying the presence of the creature. Despite being trained to handle wildlife encounters, the ranger felt unsure of how to respond to this situation. The ranger had been tasked with inspecting one of the boundary fences at Mesa Verde National Park, where alarms were often installed to deter unauthorized entry. While inspecting the fence, the ranger suddenly felt a severe headache and stumbled back to their car, completely unaware of the creature's presence. Believing they were experiencing a brain aneurysm, the ranger dialed 911 for help. It wasn't until later, while receiving care for dehydration and heat exhaustion, that the ranger realized hours had passed since they first encountered the creature. In the following weeks, the ranger was haunted by nightmares of the creature, some of which featured it violently attacking them. Despite their fear, the ranger was hesitant to discuss the encounter with anyone, feeling embarrassed by their reaction. However, as a park ranger, the ranger was well aware of the dangers posed by exposure to wildlife and the elements, and remained dedicated to their job of ensuring the safety of nearby residents by preventing animals from escaping. As a park ranger, he was tasked with inspecting the farthest fence after an alarm had been triggered, raising concerns about potential intrusion into the park. Illegal hunting in the past had resulted in animal losses, and the authorities could not take any more chances. Despite the many beautiful sights along the way, he could not stop and take them in. His objective was to investigate the fence break, determine the cause, report back, and set up a repair. As he approached the fence, he noticed a significant tear, as if a massive object had ripped through it. Although he initially thought it might have been a vehicle, there were no tracks on the ground. He was shocked by what he saw, and immediately notified the authorities, asking for another inspection. Acknowledging his concerns, they instructed him to stay put to prevent any unauthorized entry. As he waited, he found comfort in the lovely view of the park's most remote areas. If he was successful, he could take pictures and savor a quiet moment. The park ranger was distracted by nearby movement when he heard a noise coming from the fence. He looked in the direction of the fence and saw an animal go through it. Quickly, he got to his feet and prepared to use a tranquilizer to stop the animal from leaving the park, while holding his weapon in his hand. However, as he got closer, he realized that the animal was actually making its way into the park. Although it resembled a wolf, the animal had unusually broad shoulders and was enormously muscular. The ranger could see the muscles on its body, and each step it took produced a heavy thud that could be felt through the ground. The animal had enormous paws that were about the size of his face. Gripping his weapon more firmly, the ranger prepared to shoot at any indication of danger. The animal turned to face him as he pointed his weapon in its direction, sending shivers down his spine. It appeared to be daring him to challenge it as the corners of its mouth twisted into a menacing grin. The ranger pointed his gun at it, but the animal showed no sign of alarm. Instead, it appeared to be inspecting the shattered fence, then him, and finally its surroundings. It stood there for a brief moment, then turned and walked away, leaving the ranger motionless. The ranger had the unsettling impression that the animal was extraterrestrial, based on how it looked and acted. He stayed vigilant until his colleague arrived, but he kept quiet about what he had seen because he knew no one would believe him. As we come to the end of this thrilling story, we are left with a sense of awe and wonder at the mysteries that still exist within our national parks. From the terrifying encounter with the unknown creature at Glacier National Park to the eerie sighting at the Arch in Arches National Park, we have seen that there is much that we have yet to discover and understand. As park rangers, we are tasked with protecting these natural wonders, but we are also fortunate to witness the beauty and mystery that they hold. We must remain vigilant and cautious in our work, but also open to the unexpected and unexplained. Thank you for watching, and please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more informative content.